Welcome back to the Average Jacks podcast, and today I'm very happy to say I'm joined with Ellen Johnston. Ellen, thank you for joining us. I got it right this time. I didn't balls it up, which I just did. I'm happy to admit it took me 2 takes to do an introduction, which is ridiculous. But thank you very much for joining me today. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, not bad, not bad. Glad to be on the roll with it now and not need to break it up and then do another introduction. But we connected on LinkedIn after I put a post on, and you were talking about your journey, and then we followed on social media. It has its purposes sometimes. It can be super beneficial, but I sort of saw your page and what you're doing, and I thought it was really interesting. I thought it was a bit of a unique way of getting into, like the coaching, personal training world. It seems very cut and dry in the last few years. I mean, I'm a personal trainer as well, but to see your story, it it was pretty unique. So what got you into coaching? I'll let you explain it, and I'll not butcher it for everybody. But
How
what?
long have we got?
Oh, we've got time. Don't worry.
So, I suppose for me, in case you couldn't tell by the accent, I'm from Ireland. I come from Donegal. So, like naturally, like most kids in Ireland, like you grew up playing Gaelic football. That was like the in thing. So, I started playing that like the age of 6. But I was lucky in the sense that I had no major injuries, bar like maybe like a sprained ankle here and there. So I wasn't really out for any longer than 2 weeks. But then all my good luck caught up with me when I was 14, and I got every athlete's worst nightmare, and I tore my ACL, so your anterior cruciate ligament. At that point, I was the youngest person in Ireland to have done it. There was
Wow.
nobody else younger than 14 who had done it up at that point. Don't know if that's changed since. But the consultant was like, there's so much tuning through them because they were like, you're too young to operate on. But they were like, also, it's completely gone because we also can't leave it. And I was like, great. I'm like, well, somebody has to do something here. So they, luckily enough, decided to operate on it eventually once we kind of got the green light. And that was fine. Done the rehab, like done everything I was told. But like that, anybody who has had injuries or knows anyone who's gone through an injury of some sort, say particularly if you look at someone who gets a knee replacement, the conversation always comes around to like body weight and stuff. That if you weigh less, like it's kind of for your joints, less likely to get injured and stuff. So Muggins here coming back from a crush, it was like, okay, we'll lose weight and then less likely for it to happen again. But because we know the female athletes are more likely to tear their ACL, and then once they tear it once, that then exacerbates. So it's like, right, okay, we'll lose weight. Done the classic 1200 calorie thing. Thought I was doing everything by the book. Then I couldn't figure out why I was constantly tired, but anyway. So 1200 calories, training 6 days a week. And then looking back at my rehab now, like it was all body weight and banded stuff, like nothing that was going to drive any meaningful adaptation, but I was just doing what my physio was telling me to do. So that was fine. Got back on the pitch for like all of 2 months. So I was barely back on it before I was off it again. And Donegal is a bit like Liverpool. Everyone kind of knows everyone.
Mm.
So got back in the pitch. We were playing our rival club, and their manager was like, go for her leg, go for her leg," because obviously they knew I was only back. So one of their players came in, tackled me. I went down, and I was like, "Crap! I think my cruciate's gone again." I come off. Well, I played on for 10 minutes until full time, and then I come off. Got it rescanned, and my physio was like, "Get your arse back to Dublin. Like this doesn't look very good." So went back to Dublin, spoke with the consultant that done the original operation, and he was like, "Here, look, like we've kind of done you a disservice here. Like you shouldn't have been let back anyway because of the way your knee's actually structured." So there's like multiple things that mean my knee is more susceptible to injury. So you could have someone who'll get back from their ACL, they could have no issues, whereas no matter how much rehab I done, I was always going to get re-injured. So at that point, the conversation was very much, you need to stop playing contact sports, contact multi-directional sports, that needs to go. So it was kind of a strange one because you're sitting there and I was 15 at that point,
Mm.
but when you should be kind of working towards getting to the peak of your playing years, mine, the carpet had been pulled from underneath me. So you don't even have that opportunity to reach your full potential before
Yeah.
that's taken away. So it was like a bitter pill to swallow because obviously with an ACL, like it's never a nice thing to go through, but you kind of know, okay, 12 months and then I'll be back to where I was. But this was a permanent thing, but they also kind of left me in a shitty position where they were like, we can't actually touch you again until you're 18 because you're far too young for us to actually go back in. So I was like, right, okay. I was like, what do you want me to do here then? And the conversation was very much just rehab it as much as you can and then come back to us then when you're 18. So went away, done the rehab. Of course, during that period we had COVID. So it kind of worked in my favour in the sense that nobody else was playing football. So
Mm.
it wasn't like you're opening your phone and seeing everyone else out playing. So it was kind of nice in that sense. So COVID worked in my favour that way. But looking back, there was like so much I'd done wrong. And I was like, okay, I was like, naturally, like social media is very much like girls need to look this way, girls need to be smaller, girls need to do cardio. So I basically took what I saw in the fitness industry and wanted to change that. So it's really cliche or like cringy to say it, but like I basically took that pain that I had and made it my purpose or my passion.
Mm.
So instead of encouraging girls, we need to get smaller, like okay, help them get stronger so that if, whether they're playing football, they can play for longer, or if there's someone who is just going back to everyday life, they could stay on their feet for that little bit longer. So that was kind of where that passion kind of came from. But I'm now on recovering from knee surgery number 4. So I had my second one. Yeah. I mean, like 4 surgeries by the age of 22 isn't really a claim to fame that you want to have, but
Wow.
it's one that I have anyway. So I just got the second one done. It was after we'd done like our version A levels, I'd gone back and he was like, yeah, he's like, go back and we'll try this version to try and avoid doing the more like intense one. That was fine. That worked like all 4 months. That was October 22, February 2023, when I was looking at coming over here for uni, I redislocated it. And I was like, right, okay. So then had to get an MRI and they're like, yeah, we have to go back in. We're like, this isn't good. But it was kind of funny when I woke up because it was what's called an MPFL reconstruction. So medial patellar femoral ligament. So the ligament that keeps your knee in place and stops it from sliding in and out. But because I'd used my hamstring from ACL, they had to take the hamstring from my left leg to take it over to my right.
Fucking hell.
Yeah, so basically you're rehabbing a knee and a hamstring at once on like both sides. So then that was grand. Moved over to Liverpool then for uni in September 2023. Took up Olympic weightlifting with the uni because I was like, I still want to be involved in some sort of team sports. And I was already strong with like deadlifts and squats, so I want to kind of push myself out of my comfort zone. Got reasonably okay at that. Like I wasn't the best at it, but also all things considered, I was pretty decent at it.
Yeah,
And
with
then
not too functioning, well, unfunctioning hamstring and not functioning knee to be in
you go
Olympic
literally,
weightlifting is, you know, they require them two things quite predominantly.
yeah, they're quite important. Like,
Yeah.
but then February last year, I think I'd competed, and then 2 weeks after the competition, I was in training, caught the bar from a push press, felt my shin bone go one way, thigh bone went the other. I threw the bar back on the rack, just went fuck, fell on the heap on the floor, and my coach was like, "Oh no," and I was like, "Yeah, oh no." So got back home, got it rescanned, and just completely severed the ligament that they'd reconstructed. But my consultant, like, it's bad when like the consultant doesn't want to see it because obviously they get paid bank. So like the more people they get in, they're like, yeah.
Yeah.
So he walked out to the waiting room and he's like, Ellen. I was like, Cahill, I was like, before you say it, I was like, I don't want to see you either. And he's like, I really
This
don't want to see
this is a
you. And I,
mutual thing of that
it's a
neither of us
mutual
want to
thing,
see
like,
one
don't
another.
worry about it. So then I walked into his office and he was like, what are we going to do? And I was like, you're the consultant. I was like, I don't know what you want me to say. So he was like, right, okay. He's like, he said, we're going to have to go back in because it's completely gone. But he was like, after this, that's it. He was like, there's no more. He was like, we can't touch you again until we can actually get it replaced. And I was like, right, okay. I was like, so what's the crack now then? So he was like, heavy squats have to go, heavy deadlifts have to go, Olympic weightlifting had to go. That was another sport. So again, it was like that thing of like, you're kind of getting into the groove of a sport, and then before you reach that potential, it's taken away again. So yeah. But the funny part of this, my mum actually did think I was taking the piss when I told her the story because he was like, you've used both your hamstrings. He's like, we're going to get the tissue from somewhere else. And I was like, this day and age, do we 3D print it? Like, what's the crack?
Uh,
And he was like, no. He's like, it's more morbid than that. And I was like, what do you mean? And he was like, we have to get it from a dead person.
yeah, I could have a
I was like, what?
yeah.
And he was like, yeah. So I've now nicknamed my knee Franken knee.
So you've got a cadaver.
Yeah.
Wow, wow, because that is like
It,
that's like last ditch, isn't it?
that's
When they
last
start
resort.
doing
But
like like
then,
cadaver graft because they're so expensive cadaver grafts as well.
no, literally, but my physio, like, my physio's a nerd. Like he fell into like the rabbit holes of like PubMed or whatever.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
did find apparently there's only 4.3% worldwide who've had the surgery done with a cadaver. So I'm like, I told one of my lecturers and they were like, "Do you think you're special?" And I'm like, "God, yeah."
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm a percentile, which is always a nice thing to say. Just
I mean, what can
listening.
I say?
Oh no, but like listening to that, what a story! And like one thing that just kept creeping up, something that I want to ask you is because I nothing to the level in which you've experienced, but I've had many injuries through playing rugby league and weightlifting, and almost having that. I feel like I can really relate to you and resonate with what you're saying with almost having that potential snatched away from you. How did you deal with that from an identity point of view? Because obviously you was like what 14 the first time this happened. It probably
Yeah,
was your life and sort of that you probably had, like as all teenagers we do the sport that we love to play and the sport we want to be in. That's the dream, isn't it? Usually to be like, well, I'm going to go and play this professionally. I'm going to go and do this to a high level and try and make it my life. But then to have that potential taken away from you, how was that to manage from an identity point of view at such a young age?
it was hard to deal with, and like I think because I'm 22 at the minute, and like everyone's like to me, "You're so mature for your age," but I think because I've had to deal with that so early on, I had no choice but to mature pretty quick. Because like obviously like in that environment you're growing up, as you say, you're like, "Yeah, I want to go pro," and then you'll hear everyone say, "Oh, I could have been pro only for my knee or whatever." But like, so with Gaelic, like it is an amateur sport. Like you don't get paid for it. Some players might be lucky and they'll get like a car sponsored,
Mm,
but to wear your county shirt is a pretty big like achievement. So I was always like, yeah, want to play for Donegal. I want to have that jersey. And then when that's taken away from you, it's kind of like, right, okay, because you go from being part of this like team environment because obviously there's no lion team. You can't win a match without like everyone around you. But then when you get injured, you go from being part of this team to then being on your own
yeah,
because nobody can deal with that for you essentially. So like the biggest thing that I kind of sat with was like, okay, like this is shit. Like people always be like, oh, where there's a setback, there's a comeback. Like, yeah, okay, like the sentiment's great, but it doesn't really help in the moment. So it's kind of like figuring out who you are away from that sport. Like, yeah, okay, fair enough. Like, I'm Ellen, I'm a footballer. But it's like, okay, I'm also a daughter, a friend, a niece, whatever it is. So it's like trying to separate like that from who I am and then also accepting that like I can't have that anymore, but still allowing myself to be involved in some shape or form. But like I did kind of have to pull myself away from it fully, like completely for a bit. Like when it came to watching football on the TV, I couldn't even have it on. I was like, I need that clean break. But then you kind of then start to realize, okay, people always be like, oh, like everything happens for a reason or whatever. And I had this one friend, she kept saying to me, I was like, if you say that to me one more time, I was like, I will smack you. I was like, I'm so sick of hearing this. But then I remember there was like one point where it did kind of click for me one day. I was like, okay, like maybe this is why this did have to happen to the extent it did. Because otherwise I'd be too busy chasing football around the pitch to
mm,
actually pour my attention to anything else. But using that kind of window to explore other avenues that maybe I didn't look at previously because I was so busy, like training or preparing for one thing or another. And also kind of realizing, like, okay, sports one part of my life, but what do I enjoy outside of that? Because you're more than an athlete. Like, at the end of the day, you have to live a life, you have to make a living. So I doubled down on the things that I enjoyed, but also spoke to people about it. To be fair, not many people in my life actually understood. Like my physio, like he tried his best, but he was just like, I don't know what to say. He was like, nobody teaches you what to say in that situation. But it's like understanding, okay, this is bad, but what can I make out of it? And then using that then to kind of drive me on.
I mean, it's so inspiring to hear someone talk about it openly when like I've been through that and I feel like I've been sat in them positions where you think, oh fucking this is like it feels all consuming, doesn't it? It feels like you're in this well and there's just no way getting out and like you can see the top and 1 minute you're with all your teammates and you're having good crack and you feel connected. And then all of a sudden it's this very lonely place. But I love the fact that, you know, everything does happen for a reason, quotations, as we say, and what people tell you to make you feel better. But a lot of people don't have that introspection and don't have the ability to do what you did and be like, you know what, this is shit. This is really bad, but how can I use it for good? And you talked earlier about, really tuning into like your passions and like your purpose. When did that hit? Because I'm assuming you're talking about, when you became a coach and sort of streamlining them passions and them core values into what you do. What was the moment through all of this? Was there like an epiphany when it was like, I'm just going to be a coach? Or did it just naturally sort of evolve?
It was kind of like something that kind of evolved like over time. So obviously, playing football, like, you're very active anyway, but it was always the fitness side of things. It was never about the strength side of things. Like, it always had to be, you had to be smaller, you had to be faster. But it's never like, okay, like, actually, let's strengthen things up a little bit here. And I remember when I was rehabbing, like during lockdown and stuff, I would kind of like document like my process on Instagram, because I was like, I know if I don't, I won't hold myself accountable. Whereas like when there's other people watching, you kind of have to keep doing what you're doing. So it makes it a bit easier. So I was doing it that way. And then at the same time, I was working in the local supermarket during COVID. That was, I love people. Like, I'm a people person, I'm a yapper, but like, some people are so rude. And I remember like one point in my break, I was like, I need to get out of here. I was like, I'm done. Like, I've had enough. And then there was a girl who replied to my story. She's like, oh, I think you'd be like a really good PT. And it was something I thought about. And then I was like, nah. I was like, there's no way. Because like, I remember I said it to one of the boys in my class, and he's like, why would somebody pay someone younger than them? He was like, it just wouldn't happen. And I'm the kind of person, if you tell me I can't do something, I'm like, well, I'm going to go and do it just to prove a point here.
Yeah, balls to the
So,
wall. Let's go for it.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it was one day I was on my break and I saw this ad for a PT course, and I was like, you know what? I was like, we'll schedule a call with the person who's running the course, see what the crack is. And then she's talking me through it, and I was like, you know what? I was like, this sounds like something I could do. So then I don't know, like, you hear people who do PT qualifications and they don't even use them. They're like, I just did it for the crack. So I was like, if I do it, like, at least I have it. Like, there's nothing tying me there to actually want to do it. But I remember, like, we had a workshop weekend where, like, you actually had to coach the other people on your cohort, say, through certain movements. So, like, whether it be like a deadlift or like a dead bug or whatever. And I don't know what it is. Like, I just freaking love a dead bug. I think it's because I'm so uncoordinated that, like, when
Yeah.
I see someone else who can't coordinate, like, it just makes me giggle. So I was like, I started as coaching. I was like, you know what? I was like, I actually get a proper buzz off this. Like, I really
Mm.
love this. So then I remember I got my qualification and I was like, you know what, feck it. I was like, shits and giggles, let's just hand in my notice. And then I left and I just put a thing on Facebook, and I was like, oh, I'm taking PT clients on. But because where I'm from is so small, everyone knows you. Like, something could happen in your family, and Mary down the street would know what's happened before you even know about it. But like, because I am so outgoing, like, everyone knew me, so it meant that when I said that I was taking on clients, everyone was like, oh, I went to her in the shop, she was really nice, I'll sign up to her or whatever. So it worked out really well in my favour. But I think as well, like, you kind of realise that people think like you go into a PT and it's just, oh, this person over in the corner of the room like yelling at you. But then when you have that person in the room with you, it's kind of like you see the direct impact you have in their life. Like, they walk out of the room, they're walking a little bit taller. They walk in the following week, they're a bit more confident. And then you see the smile on their face when they do something how they didn't even think they could do. And you're like, you know what? Like, this is actually really good.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I mean, it's a brilliant feeling to have that impact on somebody's life and be able to positively contribute to it, especially in that way of, that one-to-one nature. I mean, even when you take classes, and you give that cue for that dead bug, and then someone finally gets it, and you see that it's so, again, rewarding, and it gives you that buzz as well, and you imagine it gives them that buzz. But it's very dog eat dog, isn't it? Coaching and personal training at the minute. I mean, it's like you said, there's people that do the course just to do it and then never maybe really use it, or they might dip the toe in it and then realize that it's not as easy as it seems, or it's not as, I think a lot of people think like they're going to become an online coach and a one-to-one coach and then just like retire at 29 and go and live in Dubai or
Yeah, literally
somewhere like
Dubai
that.
is the big one at the minute. Everyone's like, get me over there.
Yeah, but like that is not. I think it's the wrong motive to have if you're going into like especially people skill, like a people skill or person relationship centric business is that you need to be a people person, and I think you need to just get that buzz. I think the most rewarding thing is the buzz. I mean, the money's nice, but I'm not going to sit here as a personal trainer or as a class instructor and be like, I do it out of the goodness of my heart. I mean, there is an element of that. Do you know what I mean? Because if I didn't like it, I wouldn't do it, and I wouldn't do the buzz. But I'm also not doing it to be like, right, this time next year, I'll have my feet up. But because it's not that lucrative, is it? And I think you understand that very quickly. And what was your first 18 months like as a coach? Because I'm so interested in people's like philosophies of coaches and how they evolve. Because yours is very specific now. It's quite not niche. I think niche is probably the wrong word, but like you have a target audience. You know what you want. You know what you're delivering. And I think that's a really hard thing when you first start coaching is to try and not be that one fits all.
Yeah. Like, I had somebody else say to me during the, like, last week, they were like, you go against your grain quite a lot. Like, you're not your typical, like, let's do 6 week fat loss phase, da 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 da. Because, like, realistically, like, yeah, like, you've just done 2 photo shoots back to back, pretty much.
Mm,
Like, that is tough going. Like, to get to that level of leanness,
hellish.
that is difficult.
Mm.
Especially like those last couple of weeks, you're like, oh my god. You're like, I just need to lie down. But, like, in order to say someone get to lose, like, say 5 kilos, it's not that difficult. Like, you just manipulate a few things here and there. But I think the fitness industry, the way it's been programmed, is it loves preying on people's insecurities. It loves making people feel like shit. Because obviously, when we're in pain, that's when we're more likely to buy. It's when we want to invest because the pain's so much that you're like, I would do anything to change this. So people are sold this idea that, like, if you lose like 10 kilos, like all your problems will be fixed. Like, you might have really toxic friends and you might hate your job, but like those 10 kilos and none of that matters anymore. But that's not the case. Like, it's so much more than that. Like, if you don't actually, like, yeah, fair enough, it's probably easier to like yourself when you weigh a little bit less. We know that. But like, if you are so full of hate, like, with your body at any point, that's not going to change just because the number in scales has gone down, because there's always going to be that goalpost that moves. Like, okay, I've lost 10 kilos. Okay, I'll lose another 5. I'll lose another 5. And because you've never actually addressed like how you think about yourself or how you feel about yourself, or you've never actually proven to yourself that, like, you know, you're worthy of respect or care regardless of what that number scale says. And like, it's just because I've been in that place where I'm like, yeah, I'll lose 20 kilos and I'll lose 5 more and then I'll be sound. But I still felt shit because I didn't actually address how I felt. So like, for me now, like, if a client's like to me, okay, I want to lose weight, I'm like, sound, we'll lose weight, but also we need to address a couple other things, but also set a goal aside from that. So a pull up's a classic thing. Everyone's like, I want to be able to do a pull up. And I'm like, sound. Like, it just means if progress stops moving in one area, it's still moving somewhere else. And like, I don't care, as long as I get a barbell into the hands of everyone when I work with, I'm happy out. Like, that's because even like, I remember it was like last November I came out and said, I was like, by the end of this recovery, I want to bench 100 kilos. And fair enough, like, when I get it, it'd be a great day. Like, everything be fucking buzzing for me, like.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's not so much like, oh yeah, like, it's a number, but it's also to prove to other people like what's possible when you actually just stop placing your entire sense of worth on this one thing
Mm.
and start actually dabbling in other bits and pieces and like actually prioritizing the right things. It makes such a big difference. So for me, my big thing is like actually helping women fall in love with that feeling of getting stronger instead of continually chasing smaller on the scales. Because if you build a stronger body, like, you can do more in life. You have a more enjoyable life. You have your quality of life for longer. You have your independence. And that's like the sexy stuff that people don't like talking about because it doesn't sell as much. but also hitting a PB feels pretty freaking good.
Yeah.
You're like, you know what, I done that. And aiming for a PB is a lot more empowering than being like, oh, I hit a new low on the scale this morning. But like for me, when I started in the industry, like you touched on my first 18 months in the industry, like all that was kind of peddled at that point was like, oh, weight loss. You need to be like, pushing this, pushing that. So I did start off kind of touching on that. I was like, oh, if you want to lose weight, like come to me or whatever. And marketing was very much like, fat loss graphs. They're like, this is my client Mary. She lost 5 kg in 8 weeks. But I think for me, because I know how much of an impact training had on my life, I loved the idea of what I was doing, but something felt a bit misaligned. I was like, something's not quite clicking here. And I remember I sat down, I had a conversation with someone, and they were like, yeah, but they were like, you don't actually care about like numbers in that way. Like, you far rather about helping someone achieve something meaningful as opposed to just a normal scale, like a more aesthetic, less tangible thing. So I was like, yeah, I was like, okay, so we'll pivot things a little bit, see how that goes. And I think when you kind of have that shift, like you care more about what you do, you feel more aligned. And also the people I was working with kind of felt that energy as well because I was like, yeah, I'm buzzing, let's go. And yeah, and that's kind of the passion that I always kind of drives with me. Like obviously it's one of those things like when I got in the industry, like I'd one surgery at that point. I've since had three more within the space of being in the industry. So naturally you do evolve, but that's the beauty with it is like none of this is set in stone. Like your coaching philosophy, what you believe in, your approach can grow and evolve with you as a person, which mine definitely has. Like I will never claim to be the best coach in the world. Nor do I want to be. I want to be the best that I can be within my capabilities, but also with the people that I work with. Like if you look at my stories, like I'm always reading something, I'm always learning something. Whereas like coaches will do like a PT qualification in 6 weeks and be like, sound, I know everything.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm like, but you don't though. And this is the problem that really like it grinds my gears. Mainly because I'm a nerd. But anyway.
But I think it's I agree with you. I think it's an issue that we have, and it's almost creates these cyclical problems that you're referring to. Is that people come in, you know, oh, I've done a 6 week course. I'm now like the dog's bollock. I mean, in some cases, there will be people who are just naturally, you know, freakishly good coaches who, just jump into it and are insanely good. But it's not really the industry where that happens, and it's very, very rare if that happens because it's a lot of making mistakes. It's a lot of making a dick of yourself by, being out in front of people and
Posting
be
online.
yeah, posting online, sort of letting your guard down, sharing like vulnerability, and again, perfectly put. The ethos around like your own coaching style is so fluid. But I think as long as that fluidity aligns with your core values and purpose, then like you said, it'll never become boring. It'll sort of, if you're getting results with people, like for me now, I work with a lot of clients who are older, like more like middle aged onwards for the most part, like 50 plus, and to see them doing things that they never thought they'd be able to do, like you say, like your pull ups, your press ups, and things like that. I think after a few weeks you get them and they're like, oh well, I wanna lose a bit of weight and I want to do this, and I'm like, but what do you want to do, like performance, like what have you always wanted to do? And like, oh, push up. I'm like, right, well, let's do that then. And like, oh no, no. But then like as they start getting them little progressive overloads and they get closer to doing it, you can see that shift for most people. They start forgetting about the weight. They start forgetting about, because they feel generally good. Like a client of mine, she had two wrist surgeries and she wanted to do a push up and she'd never done anything like that before. And the other week, her husband was chatting to me and he was like, "You've made a monster." She was lugging like 20 kilo compost bags around the garden the other day, and I was like, "Class!" Like buzzing. I was like, that for me is like so much better than anything else that anyone could do because it aligns with what I want for people. Like, and I think
Yeah.
you highlight that perfectly on what you put across. But you know how how do you deal with making them mistakes? Because I think it's fair to say, and I'm not putting you on the spot or anything, but like we say, in them first 8, 12, 18 months, maybe even longer. I mean, I'm still doing it now, but you make them mistakes, but it takes a level of, like I say, introspection and reflectiveness to be actually like, oh, I don't want to be a weight loss coach. Why am I plugging this? How did you deal with self-reflecting on that and actually going, I'm going to go against the grain here and I'm going to put this out for the world? Was there a lot of self-doubt or a lot of like maybe insecurity around taking that leap?
Yeah, like there definitely was, and I think I'd work with a mentor as well, and he was kind of like very much like you need to be pushing like transformations and like fat loss because that's what sells, and then you also need to walk the walk. Because I remember he like passed some comments on a call, like it wasn't specifically aimed at me, but it did feel very targeted the way he said it. He was like, "If you look like a sack of spuds, like clients are gonna want to pay you," and I was like, "Oh." And at that point, I was like, "Oh, like maybe he's right or whatever." And then I remember sitting down. I was like, "No," I was like, "Something about this just doesn't sit right with me." Like where you're constantly making someone feel shit, like being like, "Do you hate what you see when you look in the mirror?" And I'm like, "Nah, I wouldn't say that to anyone. Like it just doesn't sit well." And like I think being able to sit down and think about, okay, like do I enjoy what I talk about? Because with the fitness industry, like you said earlier on, it's very dog v dog. Whereas there's always that worry, like, oh, if I say this, like, what's that coach going to think of me? Like, what are they going to say? But being able to sit down and be like, okay, like, park when everybody other coach says, because I'm not trying to sell to them. Like, I'm trying to sell to the people that I want to help. Like, do I actually care about what I'm saying? Do I like what I'm saying? And I think if you like what you're saying and like it aligns with what you want or like you believe in, then that's the most important thing. And like you are sometimes going to get it wrong. You're going to say something, you're like, you know what, actually, probably wasn't the best thing to say in the world. But like, own up and be like, you know what, actually, I take the back. That is something I changed my mind on because, yeah, fair enough. We're coaches. We put ourselves out there on social media, but we're also human at the end of the day. Like one of my friends said to me last week, they were like, oh, sometimes like we forget it's our first time being alive. And I was like,
Yeah,
you know what? I was like, that's actually so true. Like,
yeah,
so of course you're gonna make mistakes because you haven't done this before, and nobody's gonna be like, oh, this is the exact 5 steps that you need to get it all figured out because nobody has it figured out. Like, I know people look at me and they're like, oh, you're so on it all of the time. I'm like, yeah, that's what it looks like on the front end. I was like, you don't see the behind the scenes. I was like, you don't see me starting my journal, my coffee at 5 a.m. being like, the fuck am I doing? Like, nobody sees that side of things. But like, even just reflect and be like, I think for me, the main thing is being happy. Like, because if you're happy and you feel good about what you're doing, everything else flows. Whereas, like, if you don't align with it, you hate it, you're miserable doing it, you're not going to attract the people that you actually want to be around. You're going to be rubbish cracks. Your clients will probably come for like 6 weeks and be like, you know what, actually, this one's misery guts. I'm
yeah,
leaving.
yeah,
Whereas, like, for me, like, I'm that person where, like, my clients don't want to leave. Like, they'll stay with me because, like, I'm chatty, I'm funny, but also I get to the point.
mm,
Like, that was probably the biggest mistake I made when I started was that, like, you try to be everyone's friend. You're like, you know what, I don't want to say something's going to piss them off because, they might be like, you know what, actually, she's a bitch. I'm not going to pay her anymore. But also, like, there's a line between being compassionate, but also getting them to do what they need to do.
100%.
And that was something I struggled with because the fitness industry is very hard and fast. Where like you need to do this, you need to do that, and if you're not doing this, you don't want it bad enough. And I didn't want to be that style of coach, so I nearly went too far the other way, where I was like really soft. Like
Yeah, yeah, almost a
didn't go to the
pushover.
it's like didn't go to the gym yesterday because you're tired. No problem. Don't worry about it. We'll do it next week. And like then I'd wonder like if my clients weren't actually changing because I wasn't calling them out the stuff that they weren't doing. Whereas, if you're not being called out on the stuff that you're doing that isn't going to help move you forward, you're not going to change it because no one's been like, actually, this is the problem. This is what's
Yeah,
keeping you stuck. Whereas now, like, I have no problem saying that to someone. Like, obviously, I won't be a dick about it. Like, I'll say it to them and be like, here, look, like, maybe the most compassionate thing you can do for yourself is actually getting up and going to the gym. I'm like, you know what? Actually, I feel better after going to the gym. You're completely right.
Yeah, you never
And like,
regret a workout.
yeah, unless of course like something
Well,
happens in the workout. Like I remember I dropped a
unless you
plate
like,
in my foot before.
yeah, or you snap your leg, like like, yeah, or
I
break your
mean,
shoulder. These things can
yeah,
just they're the bad ones, but for the most part, generally, you never
yeah, for the
tend
vast majority.
to regret a pain-free workout.
It's like that's what I say to people is like, you know, sometimes the best thing you can do for yourself is actually doing the thing you don't want to do. And I know like if I probably hadn't realised that within the 18 months, I probably wouldn't have a business today to be completely honest, because it'd just be like, nah, I'm just paying her to be my friend.
Yeah,
Whereas like now, okay, we get on well, but I'm like, okay, we need to actually get something done here.
because that's why you're there, isn't it? And that's again, I'm seeing a lot of similarities in my sort of journey and what your journey was as well, and especially when you get your friends who you know get involved with you, and it's difficult, isn't it, to balance that empathy with like accountability, and it's sort of yeah, it's crazy, but again, you have to have them two hats, and I sort of think that you need to put the foot on the throat a little bit, don't you? Because some people just can't do it without someone being like that to them, or they have too much on to even think about following a gym program, like or writing a gym program or finding a gym program, and then or researching what are my macros, what are my calories, what am I how much water should I be taking.
ChatGPT.
Yeah, so exactly like, but even people can't be asked doing that, can they? Most people can't even be bothered because they want the quick fix. They want, they channel into the pain. And I've had so many conversations with so many people about, you know, they're at like a larger weight than most. They're on the scale like past obese and things like that. And I know BMI is a terrible metric and things, but some people they've done damage, quote unquote, to the body for so long. It's not going to take a week or a quick fix or a pen or something that's going to miraculously undo all that. You need to essentially put that work in and that base to to reverse it, for lack of a better term. But do you see? Do you get what I'm
Yeah,
coming
I
from
get you.
there? And like again, it's just you summed it up perfectly about these pain points that the industry just they go for the jugular, don't they? And then people are like, well, I want to lose 15 kilos in like 6 weeks, 8 weeks. So like, yeah, that's fine. Well, it's not fine, but yeah, you can do it, but you'll feel like shit. You'll feel
Yeah,
like shit because it's not sustainable. It's like me now with the photo shoots, like you mentioned them. Like that is not getting to that is not sustainable. Like I've done the podcast twice with my coach now, like prior and after, and like yeah, it's good to do that, and it's great to look back and think, oh, I achieved that, but it's not sustainable, and it's not something that unless you want to do it, which I did because I needed that challenge because I can't play sports anymore. I can't really do like the CrossFit stuff. I can't go to them dark places where them sports or like weightlifting
go to the
take you.
trenches.
Yeah, the trenches, and I needed that. That's like a big thing of my motivation and what keeps me on track is that I'm like, right, I'm gonna have to stay accountable to myself if I'm gonna achieve this. But there's so many people in the industry now that promote that as standard and promote that as this is what it'll be all the time. And let me tell you, it won't, because them that last week is rough as fuck, and
Yeah,
it is, like you said, you're just tired, and like them refeed days are bliss. Like when you're having them carb refeed days and you get in there, it's they're good, but not like it's not something that we should be saying this is the standard. So I like your sort of take on things, and I like your narrative, but I also love that you'll put people in the place as well, because I feel like sometimes you've got two ends of them spectrums, haven't you? People are like, just do what you want to do. Just do what you want to do and that's fine. But it's not fine because some people have already gone too far and it's just going to become detrimental at that point, isn't it? And it's finding that balance. And I really like that you've got that and you talk about it because it doesn't seem to be talked about enough.
no, like I think the fitness industry is very like black or white. Like it's either
Mm,
you're this camp or you're that camp, and then it's like, if you don't fit in either of those camps, then you know what, you're on your own. But
yeah.
there is that grey area, but it's like it's not publicised, it's not spoken about a lot.
And do you catch flack for that on social media at all? Like, do people ever like comment like on your content and give you shit for it? Because it seems to be a very common thing that coaches just catch strays constantly on social media for whatever they're saying.
So like I haven't got flack for like what I've said, like lucky enough. But then was it the middle of June I done a bench only competition, and like I benched 85. It looked pretty smooth. I was pretty buzzing with it. So I like put a reel out. I was like, oh, like you get those trends and it's like, oh, I consume so much gym content. I forgot it's not normal for a girl to bench 85 kilos or whatever. Oh my god, some of the comments on that video, I had to hide my phone. It was like, it's always people without a profile photo, and 9 times out
Yeah.
of 10 it's a man. It's a man. I hate to say it. Like, my most common phrase in June was, it's not all men, but it's always a man.
Yeah.
Because, like, I had men like commenting on being like, they're like, wait, that's a girl? Then, like, are you a male? Are you taking steroids? And I'm like, no. That was the first time I've ever gone over to that side of social media, and I was like, I don't know how people cope getting this like on a daily basis. Like, I think there was like one comment made where it was like, oh, if you're not benching like your body weight, then it's not elite or whatever. And that was the first comment. That was kind of shits and giggles. I was like, well, you don't really understand the concept of like muscle, like being able to use muscle or whatever. But then when it started getting personal, I was like, no. Because there's this thing where like obviously with social media you have to put yourself out there. Like if you want to have a business in this day and age, in most industries like physios, sport therapists, like we all need to have some sort of presence. But like just because you're putting yourself out there online doesn't warrant then someone else to come on
Yeah, it's not a free
and take like
pass.
jibes at you. Like fair enough if someone said something and you're like, that could be potentially harmful to someone,
Hmm.
then like call them out in it, but also don't be a dickhead about it. Like
Yeah.
I'm sure you've seen the whole Joe Wicks thing where like Joe just continually keeps getting thrown under the bus because he'll make these stupid remarks like relapsing after thing of Jaffa cakes, or like he done a marathon without like water or going for a shit.
Yeah.
Like stuff like that there, then like yeah, you're gonna comment on it. But like you're also not gonna be like, oh my god, you're a terrible person, like all this kind of stuff. Because at the end of the day, that person is still a human behind that screen.
Mm. I think like something that jumps out with you from like my perspective, just listening to talk, is that there must be so much resilience that you have built up from like this journey that you've been on. But how do you know how do you not let shit like that just be the catalyst to throw the towel in over all these different things that have happened? Because there must have been so many opportunities for you to be like, this is it now. This is the last one. Like this is all I can take. Like the four surgeries, the cadaver graft, then getting like, because even that, even if it was a one time thing, that can be enough for someone to just be like, fuck, I'm just gonna go back and hide away from all this. But you didn't. You just sort of, bit down in your gum shield and went forward with it. But how do you keep yourself doing that? What's the skills? What's like the habit or the routine in place to be like, fuck it, I'm just gonna keep walking forward.
I think like as you said, like I am quite a resilient person, which I think in this day and age I think some people like they just, because I'm so like cutthroat with it, or I'm like, if people fall apart at the slightest inconvenience, I'm like, what do you mean? Like, like my friends will say stuff, and I'm like, guys, I'm like, it's not that deep. Like,
Mm,
you'll survive. But like, with each of the surgeries, like, I think, especially at 16, being told you're not gonna play anymore, it's like, well, that's my whole entire life. I'm like, what do you want me to do? And like, as you said, like, it would be so easy to be like, you know what, I'm not even gonna try at this point because there's no point. But the way I always see it was like, I feel rubbish regardless. So if I stop and just do nothing, I'm still going to feel rubbish. But at least if I try and do something about it, I'm taking ownership of the situation and I'm trying to change it. And I don't know who done the study, but I know there is a study where like it was carried out in different people who were in, shitty circumstances, and those who like took action and believed they had some sort of control over the situation had a more positive outcome, they had a better mindset towards it compared to those who just sat in it and was kind of like, this is just the way it is. And I don't want to get to the end of my life being like, oh, I just lay down and let that thing defeat me when I was 22. I'm like, you know what, like, it is what it is, but I'm going to try and work a way around it. Like, even after that last one, because I think when you go through surgery, like, yeah, you think of the person going through it, but it's also the people around you who have to see you like that. Like, my mom at home, like, had to literally, like, help me to the bathroom. Like, last year I had two operations on my jaw, she'd help feed me. Like, it's stuff like that there that you don't think about. And she was like, I actually can't put you through another surgery. And I was like, well, I'm not doing this for the shits and giggles. I was like, it's just the way it is. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
but I was like, even this when she was like, Ellen, like, maybe this is just your sign to just stop and just stop trying to prove a point. And I was like, nah. I was like, you know what? Like, I can still do bench. I was like, I'm gonna get really good at bench. Good at bench 100 kilos because it means I have a goal to work towards, but also means like, if someone's going through a hard time, they might look at that and be like, you know what? Like, she's overcome all that and she's still going. And like with the hate comments, there was a couple of times where I was like, you know what, maybe this is my sign to just delete my account and just not post on it anymore. But then I sat with it and I was like, you know what? I was like, my body's taken away so much from me, like of things that I can't do. I was like, I'm not letting the opinion of like a minute few insecure men on the internet be the thing that stops me from doing the thing that I still can do. And it's that thing, right, where like the ball's in your court. Like you can't always control the situation. Like it's life. Shitty things are gonna happen. You've every single right to feel shit about them. But it's also your responsibility to try and do something about it. And if I can do something about it that's potentially gonna make me feel better, why would I not give myself a go at having that experience? So that's the mindset I always kind of took to it. But like what this surgery in particular, like it's been a slog and a half. Like I'm 8.5 months post surgery, but like it's still nowhere near like fully functioning. Like it'll never be 100%. But even my physio is a bit like, just taking a bit long, isn't it? And I'm like, yeah, it is. And like sometimes just get days and be like, you know what, if this is really testing my patience today. But like I might give myself like 30 minutes to be like, you know what, feel how I feel about it. And then I'll get up and do something that makes me feel good and just carry on from it. But because I'm like, I'm not wasting any more time than is necessary dwelling on this one thing.
I love that how you said, sort of paraphrasing what you did say, but not letting life happen to you, sort of controlling the controllables. And a lot of people do just let let it by, and then you're on that sort of like, I know it's morbid for say, but you're sort of on that deathbed, and you're like, fucking hell, what did I do? Because like you
Yeah.
say, we've only done it once. We're only doing it once, depending on whatever you believe or whatever you're
Sometimes
viewing.
once is
But
enough.
exactly, and like I think that's a really. I seen something the other day, and it was like, don't live the same year 75 times and call it a life. Like, try
Yeah,
and keep things changing and keep things different, and rather if that's forced on you, like your surgeries and your circumstance, but embracing that and still being not feeling like woe is me and not feeling down about it, because I think it's inspiring what you've done is that every shit hand you've been dealt, you've still played the deck and you've been like, fuck it, let's play the cards and see what happens. You've
I
not
may
just
not
been
always win
folded,
at it, but I'll keep
but
going.
and you'll learn from it. And I think that's the message, and I think that's what's really important, that when people listen to this, that despite things not going the way you could ever envisage them and the setbacks keep happening, that you've just got to keep showing up. You've just got to keep moving forward, because nothing changes if nothing changes. So you've
Exactly.
got you've got to keep plucking away. And something I wanted for Asher, and you may have answered it in sort of passing over that last section then, but what would be your biggest piece of advice for people who are frustrated by injury?
My biggest piece of advice when it comes to injury is allow yourself to feel how you feel about it, but also don't let it become your whole entire personality. Like, you're more than your injury. Like, talk about it, do what you have to do, but like, don't let it be the thing that whenever someone thinks, oh, there's like Mary, oh, she's injured, like, it's the first thing they think because it's all you talk about. Like, use it as an opportunity to like explore other avenues, like whether that be learn a new language or taking up a new hobby, because you could find something that you completely close yourself off to otherwise. So I think, yeah, like, feel how you feel, but also don't allow it to rob you of experiencing all the other stuff that life has to offer.
Mm. Don't let it become your identity, I suppose,
Yeah.
which is easy
It's like a
done.
double edged sword. Like, it takes your identity, but also don't let being injured become then the identity that replaces that old one.
Mm. A lot of it, in my mind, comes back to being in control and sort of being at the wheel, doesn't it? And you know, I think as a coach as well, and something that I did want to ask you is what's the main thing you've learned from your clients, but to sort of maybe give you some inspiration. The main thing I've done is that you know reaching out to others isn't always a weakness, and I feel like when you've had clients who finally accept to relinquish sometimes control and like ego to a degree and be like, I need help and I need to do something. I think the biggest thing I've ever learned from being a coach is that it's okay to ask and to let others do for you because I have a coach and I'm a coach. You know what I mean? And that's a massive thing for me is that allows me more free time to do what I want to do and not think about my own training and this that and the other. So what's the biggest thing that you've learned from your clients?
So I think the biggest thing that I learned from my clients, I suppose it kind of reinforced something that I knew about myself, is we're our own biggest critic. Like, we will only ever fixate like what hasn't gone well. Like, I have one particular client, like, she's one of my longest standing clients. She's been with me like nearly 3 years, but like, she's a mom of three, works full time, husband works away quite a lot, and like, she's like, oh, like, I didn't get this done or I didn't get that done. But I'm like, yeah, but you've got X, Y, and Z done while also keeping the house running. You've been working full time. You've got three kids. And she's like, actually, yeah, you know what? Like, you're so right. And like, sometimes you just do need to take a step back and be like, actually, I'm doing better than I think here. And I think that's the most important thing. And even, just taking that time to reflect. Like, I don't think enough of us actually reflect on our week or our day. Whereas clients, they'll do a check and they're like, actually, I really needed that this week. So even like if you don't have a coach, I think just doing that for yourself each week and paying more attention to yourself does pay dividends. And obviously, as a coach, we know that, but then seeing the impact that has on our clients then reinforces that.
It's so reassuring and remind you to do it more often because I'm the same. My negativity bias is so biased that sometimes I'll be like, oh, I didn't do that today. Today's been a fucking write off. But then you think, oh, well, actually, I've done this and that. But your brain just it isn't wired to think that way, is it? It's not wired to think about the positives. It's wired
It's
to
black or
think about,
white.
yeah, it's that natural evolutionary tick of that negativity bias just being like, should have done this, should have done that. But like when you put gratitude in and things like journaling or reflection, actually, it's so easy if it pick three things that bring you some sort of gratitude in the day, even if it's just like, I had a nice coffee today. To actually be able to look at life through that perspective is so powerful in changing your perspective of yourself, if that makes sense. Because I feel like for a long time, I never did that. I'd just be like negative, negative, and I never think about the little things. But the little things are what compound into the big things. And I think, especially being a coach in like the fitness and like self help or well being, is that we should focus on the smaller things more, and that snowballing effect into that bigger compounding win. I mean, you might not agree with that. I was sort of freeballed it though. You sort of
No,
inspired
yeah.
a brain tangent, but yeah, I love that. I love that what you said. And before we go, something I've introduced lately is like a quick fire section. So I didn't show you
Okay.
these when I sent you the questions.
Oh
So
no.
yeah, I've been doing this. Yeah, it's pretty good. So they're nothing too deep, nothing too like out of the blue. It's just a few questions, whatever comes to mind, fire.
Okay.
Yeah, no think time. Just first thing that comes to your mind. Yeah, you ready?
Yeah, let's go.
Biggest fitness myth.
Oh, cycle sinking.
Favorite exercise.
Deadlift.
Least favorite exercise.
Burpees. Why are they a thing?
Cardio or weights.
Weights.
Morning or evening training.
Morning.
Favorite book.
Oh. I'm going to go cliche and go Atomic Habits because that was the first one I ever read in terms of self help.
Yeah, great book. Great book. That was it. See, it wasn't that bad, was it? So it was just nice and quick. But before we get into the last two questions that I always ask, I just wanted to say thank you for coming on today. I mean, your story's mental to say the least, but super inspiring that you've just never, never say die. You've just never let it sort of hold you back. You've always found an alternative route to keep pursuing whatever that is. And I think there's not enough of that showcased in, or if it is showcased, it's not showcased in a human way like you've done it. I think there's a lot of it where it's like burn the boats, Goggins esque, and there's a degree of that we can channel into, and it's all well and good, but when there's an actual human perspective of a, a shit hand regularly dealt to someone, but then just persistently being like, absolutely not. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to try and help other people along the way. It's it's amazing, and yeah, I'm very very thankful that you came on here and told people about it and me about it. So thank you for that opportunity for myself. And but yeah, super super cool. But before we go, three habits that you would recommend to the everyday person and why?
Oh. So, first one, touching on kind of what I said, is like some form of journaling every day. If you can't do it every day, do it weekly because it could flag things that otherwise you wouldn't miss. It could be like, I'm a big believer in that, like, not every day may be great, but there'll always be something great in every day. So, it could be like, as you said, could be had a good coffee or, a stranger held the door for you. Like, little things like that there because we're so quick to focus on the negatives that we forget, like, all the wins or, like, all the positive things that happen in the week.
Before you move on, have you seen the challenge, the 21-day gratitude challenge, where you write a list of three things every day for 21 days, but you can't repeat that list. You
Oh
can't
my god,
repeat the
I see this
item.
in the rounds on TikTok.
Yeah, so this I seen this. I think I can't remember whose book it was in. It was in a. It was in a. It was in one of the many self-help sort of books that I've read. But it gets so hard. Like you literally like pondering through. Like you get to like day 50 and you're like, fuck, was tying my shoelaces something good that happened to me today? It's like you've gone through all your generic ones of like your friends, your family,
Literally.
your dogs, or my coffee. Like so you get to like 15 and like it becomes a proper think tank, and it's really good because you then sort of again like that phrase that you just said then was I'm going to steal that. So, but it just made me
There
think
you
of
go.
that challenge where it's like there's something good in every day. But sorry, I interjected. Go for number two.
So rude. And then my second one is there's that whole phrase where like you're the product of like the five people you spend most time with or whatever. But I always think about like spend more time with the people that make you feel like your favorite person. Like we all have like different versions of ourselves that we are when we're with different people. But
Mm.
like that we all have that person where like I love feeling that way. Like surround yourself with the people who make you feel that way more often because that will only then ripple into other areas of your life. So like basically go with those who make you feel your best, essentially. And number three would be take at least 30 minutes for yourself a day. Like this was something I neglected for so long where I was like, you know, always had to be doing something productive, like, no rest for the wicked, I'll rest when I'm dead. But then wondered why I had like no bandwidth for anything. So like now if it's like 30 minutes before I get into bed, whether it's like watching YouTube or like doing word searches, colouring, whatever it may be, just something where, like, I can switch off and it's not me replying to clients or like worrying about programming or like whether I've planned out for tomorrow's strength and conditioning session for the team. Like just something where you're just present and you kind of get that like flow state.
Mm. Final one. I love them, by the way. They're all sort of really useful tools that they're simple, but they're simple in a way that they're probably so simple that we almost neglect them. We don't always think about who we surround ourselves with, and sometimes we feel guilty for taking that half an hour to just have a bit of brain rot. Do you know what I mean? But sometimes you need to. It's like a pressure cooker. I always say this: the mind is, and it needs alleviating of that pressure sometimes. And if that's just watching someone go on camp in Alaska for 3 days with no tent or something, like shout out Outdoor Boys. That's like my favorite wind down of all time. Is just watching just shit like that. I mean, it does nothing. I'm never going to use it. I'm never going to go and put myself in that situation. But it's nice to just
Never say never. Never
never
say
say
never.
never. No, if I ever do get stuck in Alaska, at least I'll know what. Well, I won't know what to do. I'll think I'll know what to do. I will die within 16 hours of being out
This will be
there.
your
But
midlife crisis.
yeah, but at least it'll make a fun story somehow.
You have 20 years to prepare for it, so you're fine.
Exactly. What? Yeah, but it might be my YouTube channel at that point. Who knows? It might be a career change that makes me a millionaire like it did for him. But yeah, the final one that I always ask people: if there was one habit or routine that you would like to introduce in your life that you don't do right now, or you would like to reintroduce it into your life because you did it in the past and don't anymore, what would that be and why?
Ooh. So I'm going to go with introduce. And if there's one thing I could introduce to my life, it would be just take one day fully off a week. Whereas, like, at the minute, it's kind of like you kind of go through different phases where you're like in the hustle phase or like a grind phase. So it's like just being able to take that one day in the week to like
Yeah,
recharge, whether it be, just chilling out, going to the cinema, just anything essentially that isn't work, just have a full day for that because like you can't pour from an empty cup, as they always say. So it's like having that one day where like just all the things make you feel good, chuck it into one.
love that. And again, it's something that we probably, as a collective, don't do enough. Or on the alternative of that is some people just do that, don't they? But then don't do the work on the other side of it, and then it becomes
There's like a
detrimental.
pendulum there.
Yeah. It's like it's all or nothing, isn't it? So to actually have that balance, which is something that comes up a lot on the podcast, speaking to people, is that finding balance and you know having that outlet to not burn out or go too deep down the grind culture rabbit hole, which we've all definitely done. I think if you're like an entrepreneur or you have a business or you have an idea, it's very easy to burn that candle at both ends and then be surprised when there's fuck all left to
No,
run
that's
with.
right.
Yeah, so I love that. I love that you've highlighted it because people need to hear it more. So before we go, thank you again, but let people know where they can find you. Let people know where they can get in touch, where they can follow your journey. So we can all celebrate when you're at that 100 kilo bench
That'll
together
be
on
a
your
great day for the
social media.
Irish. Well, thank you so much for having me on. Really enjoyed it.
No, I'm glad.
And you can find me all the standard social media places at Ellen Johnston PT because somebody's taken Ellen Johnston as a username and just doesn't use the account. So PT had to go on to the end of it.
We'll all just report that account, get it
Yeah.
get it cancelled, and then we'll get it back to you, and then
We'll create a
we'll have
movement.
yeah, a
Free Ellen
movement.
Johnston. There we go.
But I'll put all them down in the description below, so people can check it out. But thank you very much for joining me today, and it's been a real pleasure.
Thank you so much.